And now something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hair loss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome to the show, 888-659-3727. Great to be here. I probably should have closed the door to my studio, but we were trying to work on some technical issues as usual. Maybe I'll get up once I introduce Joe Tillman. But listen, if you're new to the program, don't know who I am or why I am here, I'm a consumer advocate for men and women dealing with hair loss. I am the author of The Bald Truth and the Truth About Women's Hair Loss. I'm a guy who has unfortunately been dealing with hair loss for over 3 decades of my, it's not a short life, but, it seems like it's short. It seems like it's flying by, I'll tell you that. But basically all of my adult life, I've been dealing with some degree of hair loss. Now, I started at the age of 21. If you are actually viewing the program as opposed to listening to the show, either on iHeartRadio or on iTunes Radio or on Stitcher Radio, but if you're watching through the guys from Queen's Network or The Bald Truth or Daily Motion or many of the other online video resources like Ustream as well, you are seeing a guy who appears to have a full-looking head of hair. I'm here to tell you that is a partial sham. I am a hair loss sufferer. I paint the back of my head. I kind of have a Trump the early years thing happening. But I have been extremely fortunate to kind of slow the progression of my hair loss for a very, very long time using FDA-approved medication. Now, my drug of choice is Proscar, which is a 5 milligram dose of finasteride, which is marketed on a 1 milligram dose as Propecia. I've been using this for well over 20 years, and I don't take 5 milligrams a day, but it has definitely, in my view, completely changed my life. And, in my world, for the better. I wouldn't be behind this microphone if the drug did not work well for me, especially at the beginning. I would not have been as interested in doing what I am doing. I never would have written The Bald Truth. I never would have really followed this path if I didn't do my due diligence early on in my life, in my hair loss battle or journey, and if I wasn't lucky enough to find this drug that actually helped me. I mean, who knows where I would have been. And, maybe I would have written the book anyway, but I would have, been writing the book as a much balder guy. I don't know. But for all you guys who are new, for all of you young guys out there, for the guys who are just going through the initial throes of hair loss, for the guys who are now going online, I don't even know if I turn my phones on. I'll check in a second. What a day. For you guys who are going online, as bad as it was for me back in 1987 when I realized I was losing my hair for the first time, which I know seems like a lot of you guys weren't even born then, it is worse today. Now, the reason I say that is we've made a lot of strides. The Bald Truth is the most read volume on the prevention and treatment of hair loss in the world. It's published in 5 languages. We have touched the lives of millions of people. This broadcast reaches countless people every week, and I've been doing this for 18 years. But we still have only scratched the surface because now there's even more of an opportunity for the snake oilers and the shitty hair transplant surgeons and the guys who are just hanging up a shingle saying that they're specialists in hair loss. There's even more of an opportunity to get their message out there through the internet. So while I had to go out there and do my research in the back of men's magazines and bodybuilding magazines and, local newspapers and the sports section, and I had to actually go to the library to do some research, it seemed very difficult, and it was, to get any real information. And then all of a sudden, the internet's out there. We're putting great information on there. And then the bad guys came and the misinformation. And as Joe Tillman, who I'm going to pot up right now, who is live in our studios in Vancouver, will tell you, for a while, things were getting great, and now it's actually a situation where we're dealing with the dumbing down of the internet.
Thank you very much. I was waiting for you to say that.
Welcome, Joe Tillman. Joe Tillman is live.
The dumbing down of the internet. That's it.
Yeah.
No phrase I know of describes the current state of affairs in the hair transplant industry online better than that.
I will tell you that it's worse than ever. It's funny.
Yeah.
I'm not going to mention the doctor because I don't want him to get bashed online. He's a really nice guy. But he sent me a Skype message showing me how one of his local competitors is stealing the American Hair Loss Association seal. Now, he was up in arms about it, obviously, because he's an accepted member of the IHRS and he's able to carry the recommendation seal of the American Hair Loss Association. Yeah. I'm used to it. We deal with this on a weekly basis. And it really just shows you how, these clinics, these companies, these doctors, they don't give a fuck. They will steal credentials and put them on their website and on their print materials as well. So what do you got to do? You got to have your lawyer send them a letter. First, you try to contact them. If they don't get back to you, you got to have your lawyer send them a letter. But now it's happening in more like I never used to care when it would happen in places like Turkey or places like
Jakarta.
The Middle East and other places, where it's happened a lot. But now Turkey has really become a real destination for hair transplantation. So actually another guy in New Delhi stole both seals. So really? I have to go after these guys, and what a pain in the ass it is. Now, I'd say that most of the time they'll take it down because they know that we can go out there and we could really bash them online,
right? Just
by exposing that. But the fact that these companies would do that, and they, every time they blame their webmaster. Now, how would their webmaster know about our organization? Most of these guys that they hire aren't in the hair loss business.
I used to go after clinics. I used to out them publicly on the forums by saying, this clinic is using. It could have been the clinic I was working for at the time, or it could have been another clinic that I know of. But I would out them, and the ones that I would actually contact them and say, hey, you're using photos of another clinic, and the doctor. Every time, without fail, my webmaster did it.
Yes.
I can name at least 10 separate incidences over my career where I've contacted someone saying, take that down. Those aren't your photos. They don't belong to you. Oh, I had no idea they're up there. It's a new website, and you can check on the Wayback Machine. It had been there for 2 years already.
Sure.
I had no idea the photos were there.
No, it's the way the industry is.
It's amazing.
Hold on. Hair. No, Andrew, listen and see if I'm dropping. My voice is dropping because apparently I'm having an issue with the connection with Joe.
Yeah.
Hair. Heavitt's question here. Oh, great. The doorbell's fucking ringing.
You got a visitor.
Yeah. That's where you need to close the door of the studio. Anyway, 888-659-3727.
One thing that was interesting is you're talking about back in the day, you're looking the back of bodybuilding magazines. What other magazines? I remember seeing this when I was a kid. It was like bodybuilding magazines, men's magazines. Back in my dad's Playboys, wanted to sneak and look at those. And yeah, you suffered from a lack of information. You had to dig super hard to find what you found.
Right. Now
people suffer from information overload. And there's too much information out there for people to legitimately be able to expect to legitimately filter through on their own to find the right answers. I mean, that's why I think that what we're doing is so valuable now because we've got the experience. We've been down those roads before, and we can spot the scams and the shams from a mile away.
But here's what's happening. Here's what's happening.
But unfortunately, not everyone's finding us.
So here's what's happening. Even those who are finding us, what happens is then they have these online message forums. And listen, I own and and operate the most trafficked form in the industry. It's, but I'm the first one to say that you have to realize that so much of what you read on these forums is complete bullshit. Understand who your sources are. So then you have these guys who go on to different forums and say that, like, this is a resource that is not to be trusted, or the IHRS, or whatever, just because they have some sort of agenda or misunderstanding of what the reality is. So it's so confusing for people. It's so confusing for people, man. So according to Andrew, the sound is fine.
It keeps dropping out on my end. I'm not sure what's... Yeah.
Well, we'll find out. I'll tell you how we're going to find out. When we take a call, you'll see if it's my mic, if it's me, or if it's just something that's coming through our connection.
Cool.
Anyway, 888-659-3727. I know that you want to... Do you want to take a call first, or do you want to start talking about something that we were going to talk about?
Yeah, let's take a call.
All right, let's see who this is. Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Douglas from Chicago.
Hey, Doug from Chicago. What's happening?
Hello, Doug.
Hey, Joe. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I enjoy your website, Hair Transplant Mentor.
Thank you very much.
You ever think about going into journalism? You have a knack for writing.
He's in the hair loss media, and that's different than the hair loss mafia.
Well said. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. That's very kind of you to say, and thank you very much. I guess you could say that I am in hair restoration journalism because, I do know a lot of the doctors in the industry, and I do learn a lot of things behind the scenes. And, I write about stories that I think are of interest. There's a lot of things that I've actually got alerts set up to where I know when there's a new story coming out. And unfortunately, a lot of what I get through my feed is our PR releases, news. What do you call them, Spencer? The
press releases. That's all they are. Press releases.
PR releases, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Well, basically, there's companies now, and it's really inexpensive. You can go to PR Web or Wire, and
all kinds of different variations.
You pay a couple $100, and anytime someone has something to say,
I see these things coming.
You know what? We definitely have an issue. You can't hear me saying
99% of what I see, it's stuff that's been out there for years, and so it's not really worth writing about. But probably once a week, I see something I think is interesting, and I write something about it and put it out there. And
I got to interrupt you for a second. We're definitely having some sort of a Skype issue because I'm trying to speak and you can't hear me.
Oh, I hear you. No, I'm just kidding.
Son of a bitch.
Seriously, I didn't hear that at all.
Yeah,
okay.
That's what it is because apparently it's fine. And Doug, you can hear both of us fine, right?
Yeah, I can hear you very well, very clear.
All right, so I definitely think there's something really wrong with your setup, dude. And how many weeks is this going to take?
Let me try disconnecting you, and you call me back.
No, it's fine. As long as we could. When we take a commercial, we'll do that. All right.
Okay, we'll do that later.
All right. So Doug, what's happening, man? How are you? So you're Doug with the teeth, right?
Yeah, I was calling to report some good news. I got my teeth fixed, and there was a job I wanted, and I interviewed 2 days ago. Position. Animal shelter manager, and I got a call today that I got the job.
And they probably said, and you have a great smile.
I don't think I would have got the job with the teeth I had prior to the corrective surgery.
Dude, let me tell you something. And you know how I feel about this. You made the right move. If it's a choice between your teeth and your hair, you get your teeth done first and wait another 5 years if you have to for your hair.
Because my hair, I just got a little thinning in the crown, and I use concealer, and maybe I'm just going to stick with that routine instead of a hair transplant because it doesn't really take much time, and it works very well.
Well, if you can live your life and look like you have hair in your head and you feel comfortable wearing concealer, then why get a transplant? That's craziness.
Shock loss would. I have enough hair back there where I would worry that I might come out worse.
Dude, I live with the slope in the back that like a normal person would not see, but like Joe sees it. He knows what I'm talking about because I have fullness in the middle and in the front, and then I paint the back of my head. I have plenty of hair back there, but just not as full. And, it's so what? It takes me a little extra time. Like, I'll try to blow dry the back so it gives a little bit more height sometimes. And, to me, taking that risk, especially when you can look at yourself in the mirror and say, you know what, I look pretty good. There's no reason to take the risk. It's still surgery. And listen, we're big proponents of hair transplants. But we're the first two guys to tell you, if you don't need it, don't have one.
And you could have it done by any doctor you want, probably for free, if you wanted to get a touch-up and back, right?
That is a true statement.
Yeah.
There's not a person in this field that would not give me a completely free hair transplant, and they probably set up an OR in my house.
And Joe, I can't believe that you. I saw some of your pictures. How far you've come. You have a relatively full head of hair, and I can't believe that you were bald at one time.
Well, thank you. It's credit goes to Dr. Wong, but also it's a carefully crafted coif. The back is a lot thinner than the top and the front, which is normal for someone with so much hair loss like I had. But I'm fortunate that I got the right kind of hair. Obviously had a lot of grafts, which is a huge requirement for a case like mine. And I don't try hairstyles that I can't pull off. I mean, I used to grow it real long and kind of do the almost like a pompadour type of deal, and it covered my crown. I mean, my crown was covered 100%, but it was a backward comb over. Now I don't do that. I do much shorter. As you can see, I actually got a haircut today. Much shorter hairstyles, but I also do it in a way that I can get away with. And at worst, I just look like I've got a thinning crown and a high but a full hairline. And being 46, 47 this year, I can't complain.
Can Rogaine restore your crown 100%, or is it hit or miss?
On me or in general?
In general.
In general,
has slight thinning in
I can
crown.
honestly say I've never seen 100% restoration. The greatest restoration I've seen from Rogaine alone was probably about 30%. That's visibly. Now you got to keep in mind the general rule that you have to lose 50% of the density before you even notice. I don't agree with that 100%, but that's the generally accepted rule. So if you can get a visual 30% recovery, that's a big deal. And I've seen big deals like that. I saw one guy that was a Norwood 6, and it looked like he had a full recovery using the tablet form of minoxidil, which is called Lonitin, along with some other products that were available to him. It's a once in a lifetime result I've ever seen. So people don't go out and start buying these other things. But it was miraculous. I've never seen anything like it before. But from Rogaine alone, not even close.
Yeah, I have seen a couple of, like you said, miracles. And I've been doing this for a long time. But for the most part, I've never seen anybody except for one guy, just like you. It may be the same guy, because he was taking Lonitin tablets, and then he was using spironolactone topically, and he was also using I don't think this really helped. What was that called? Copper peptides at the time.
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, it's debatable.
And
but
this guy, man, had
especially when copper peptides are mainly for healing.
Right.
As far as I know, I don't know how that would have helped, but regardless,
it was called Tricoman.
Hell, I even saw one guy using biotin and supplements that he got at a popular supplement store.
Right.
Go from a Norwood 6 to a thin Norwood 3, which was amazing. And he swears up and down all he took was biotin and this supplement. So yeah, I mean, there are crazy things out there, but in general, don't expect miracles by using Rogaine or even Propecia or anything else that's on the market.
Doug, this is my advice to you. My advice is, right now you can get away with looking good. You got a whole new set of teeth. Why even screw with it? You could start taking using minoxidil, and you can go through telogen effluvium. It could set you off on this emotional roller coaster that you don't need at this stage in your life. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it starts to progress and get worse, then you have options. You could see a doctor. You can get yourself on finasteride. You can try Rogaine. But at this point, if the paint is working, man, just live the way you're living.
Have you guys ever seen those? In Chicago, we have these infomercials for something called Scalp Med.
Sure, of course. Yeah.
That's a scam. It's basically just minoxidil, right?
Well, I mean, here, and I think that's a term that is used, kind of thrown around pretty easily. I mean, yes, basically the only FDA-approved aspect of their product is a generic minoxidil, so they can legally say that it grows hair. But they're trying to sell you a bunch of shampoos, and I think they sell some sort of herbal vitamin supplementation as well, along with their minoxidil products. So I'm not going to say it's a scam, but I can say that you can get the exact same product for a fraction of the cost.
Okay. You guys were talking about other hair transplant. How can I say it? Clinics using other stock images or other people's photos.
Oh, shit. It happens all the time, man.
Every day.
Can I mention a doctor's name? Or
yeah.
Well, he seems like a nice guy from the videos I saw, Dr. Brett Bolton. And he did this interesting video where he went online and showed the viewers there was a doctor called Kana that was using all of Dr. Bolton's images on his website.
Yeah. Well, that is very common. I don't think Dr. Bolton is practicing anymore. Maybe he's back. I'm not sure.
I think he's back.
He is back. Okay. Well, I'm not even going to get into that. But
isn't that illegal to use other people's other clinics' images?
Well, I mean, in this industry and all industries, there's definitely, I mean, sure, there's recourse. Now, this is the only recourse he has. If those images are actually officially copyrighted, meaning that they were sent, to the federal government to be copyrighted, then they can actually sue for damages. But you can definitely have them removed legally if you can prove that they're yours. So you could basically have an injunction, but you're not going to get any financial damages. Most people do not have their images copyrighted, which they should. It's not a big deal, but I guess it's going to cost them a little bit of money. It's a pain in the ass. So basically what I would do is I would have sheets made of tiny, small images and then send them in to be copyrighted instead of having each individual image, so that then you can prove in court if you needed to that, this is copyrighted. It would be a lot cheaper for the clinic to do that, but these clinics don't think that way. But yeah, to answer your question, it's definitely not only is it illegal, it's completely unethical, but it happens every single day. So what we try to tell you guys is, no matter who the clinic is, you can't trust their before and after pictures online in most cases. That's why we say, look, a good first step is to go to the IHS, because at least they're not going to be using phony pictures. The images on their websites are images of their patients.
I really appreciate both of you. I'm glad you guys teamed up. The show has really, really gotten more positive, I think, since Joe has teamed up with you.
You don't miss Joe from Staten Island? I mean, come on.
He could get a little negative.
A little negative.
I have empathy. For him. Mental illness is something he can't control, but I hope he finds peace and some form of happiness, and because life can be taken from you at any minute, and he doesn't want to live his whole life as a hermit.
Well, that was very kind of you to say. I don't think Joe from Staten Island is going to change his tune. We've been trying to help him for almost 20 years.
Did he call in anymore?
He called in about 2 months ago, I think. And from what I understand, he's in a deeper, a darker place. I actually think one of the reasons he doesn't call in anymore is because he doesn't like Joe Tillman. But, what are you going to do?
How can you not like Joe Tillman?
I don't know. I don't know how it's possible. I think Joe had, he had a real attachment to the program, and even though he was a regular caller and a friend of the Bald Truth and very loyal to the show for so many years, I think that, maybe he was a little concerned that I brought Joe on, and, maybe he thought that he was going to be like the regular regular on-air contributor or something. And I don't know. He's just too much of a complex person for me to really understand.
I was going through some of your archive shows a couple months ago, and I saw I think you had a sidekick that went on the Howard Stern show or called in to.
Dave Salazzo.
Dave.
I don't know if Howard Stern is balding, and I really don't care. It's probably none of my business. But I did see him on a show, Pierce Morgan, I think his name is.
Yeah.
And Pierce Morgan asked him if he was wearing a wig. He asked if he could touch Howard's hair, and Howard said yes. And when he started to touch his hair, Howard kind of backed away and said, "Don't get too frisky there."
Yeah. Don't. He doesn't want. You can touch his hair. If you touch somebody who's wearing a piece of the hair itself, it's not going to feel like anything except for hair.
Just don't touch the scalp.
Just don't go into the scalp. That's when, everything's exposed. So I'm not saying Howard Stern is wearing a wig either, but I will tell you that what I found interesting about that, and we kind of just we played it up because it was great publicity for the show. I mean, my guy Dave was on for over 15 minutes, and we just books were flying off the shelves, and the radio show just became popular overnight. So I have to thank Howard Stern for that. But it is true. He did call our program director or the general manager of the station, or he had Gary Delabate, if I remember, make the phone call. And he was like, "Who the fuck is this guy Kobren talking about my hair?" And I wasn't talking about his hair. We had a person who called into the program who claimed that she worked in the same building as the old K-Rock where Howard Stern used to work and would see Howard in the elevator almost every day. And she just said she thinks Howard's wearing a wig. That's, it's a hair loss show. What are we supposed to talk about?
Yeah, he has no right to get angry. I mean, you should listen to the way he treats people.
Well, he did say, I did get a phone call saying, "Listen, this is basically it's a Howard Stern station. So if he wants you off the air, he can have you taken off the air." And I'm like, well, first of all,
that's a bully.
Well, first of all, I was like, look, you guys do whatever the fuck you want. I'm not out there saying that Howard Stern is wearing a wig. I didn't bring it up. It's a hair loss show. It's an actual program as opposed to the way Howard Stern described it. And he was pretty mean about things. But to me, the way that I felt was it was great press. And he bet us $50,000 on the air. I mean, we have, like you said, it's still circulating online. And he said, "You guys can come into my studio. I'll bet you $50,000, and you can have anybody check it out." And he said, we'll have one of his doctors and one of my doctors. And we took the bet, and he never called us back.
He could donate the money to any charity,
That was the thing, and I would have donated the winnings to any charity of his choice.
Well, I guess maybe he just wants to keep it secret, or maybe he's not balding.
Whatever it is, I don't care. I was recently interviewed for an article on Radar Online about it, and I said I never cared. I don't go out there outing celebrities. I have people that live right across from me or in the same neighborhood who they're well-known people, athletes, celebrities, and they want my help. And I'm not going to say so-and-so came over and wanted me to take a look at his scalp because he's losing his hair. I mean, his career rides on his looks for some of these people. I would never do anything like that.
No, and that's very honorable.
So, but anyway, listen, man, I'm glad that you got the job. Mazel tov on that. I told you, teeth mean everything, man. You don't have to have perfect teeth. You just have to have good teeth.
Yeah, you and Joe both have very nice teeth, and you guys have very nice hair. So I guess you're blessed with both.
Well,
I vote we have Doug calling every day or every week.
Yeah.
I'm kind of boring. I'm sorry I called.
No,
you're actually very complimentary, and I think you have a really great story because
of course
you came in. You're talking about something that this isn't a show that most people aren't. We're talking about our overall appearance and how how it's difficult when you feel uncomfortable in your own skin. Having fucked up teeth is one of the worst things that affects every aspect of your life, even more than your hair. So
sure does.
I'm really happy for you, man. I'm glad you got everything worked out, and congratulations on the job. And listen, please, you can call in every week. Don't listen to Joe; he doesn't know what he's talking about.
You guys have some great callers.
Every week.
Well,
I love that kid. I love that kid that's the waiter that calls in and does the imitation of Joe. He's a funny guy.
Yeah. Well,
that kid's great.
We got a lot of calls on the line now, so let's see who else we got.
All right, guys. Have
All right,
a good
man.
night.
All right, you take
Thanks
care.
for calling, Doug.
All right.
See you, Joe. See you, Spencer.
Take care. 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. I'm sorry if Joe's having some trouble hearing me, but we're working it out. We're working out. Apparently, no one else is, so I think it's just our connection. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Tom from Baltimore.
Hey, Tom from Baltimore. How are you?
Tom.
Yeah, I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Good, good. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for taking my call.
Anytime.
As a quick refresher, I'm a guy who called at the end of November with, I think I developed post-finasteride syndrome. I don't know if you guys remember me.
You're the doctor, right? You're the physician?
Yeah. I'm a kidney doctor. One thing I should say, and I didn't mention it the first time I called, I'm a kidney doctor, so I'm not I'm certainly not an expert, or an endocrinologist.
Right.
So I'm not an expert in propecia, but I think being a physician, I think I can add some use.
Well, I think being a physician who is suffering with post-finasteride syndrome it's a pretty valuable asset to the program. The fact that you're calling in, you're sharing your experience. So yeah.
I think I'd just like to, if I could, just make some, points about propecia. There was a study that was published in JAMA Dermatology back in June of last year, which actually, which was a meta-analysis which looked at 34 clinical trials of propecia. I certainly agree, and I think no one will argue, that propecia is very, very effective. But I think, before you put a pill in your mouth or undergo any type of treatment for hair loss, I think the most important, aspect, should be safety.
Absolutely.
I think in this particular study, which was published last June, actually showed that none of the 34 clinical trials, showed adequate safety reporting. I think that's one thing to point out.
I also think that you're probably going to find that if they decide to focus on any of the drugs that are being pushed out now by drug companies, you know how the FDA works. Basically, the drug companies, there really is no third-party testing that has to be done in order for a drug to be approved by the FDA. The drug company is able to pay for all the trials, and basically a drug company will pick the very best trials, the best results from, even if they do 100 different trials, they only have to send in 2.
Sure.
So, I mean, there's definitely, with every drug, there's no doubt in my mind there's going to be a bias. It's about business.
No, I certainly agree with that. But I think, but I think the concerning side effects in the post-marketing, in the post-marketing studies, in the post-marketing research of, of Propecia. I think that young men in the U.S. and around the world deserve a study, that can prove Propecia is safe. I think especially, with all the, with all the basic science showing, that Propecia, can cause some, very serious side effects. I think as well as the post-marketing studies that I mentioned.
You know what? That's not a bad idea. What I think would be great is if all the guys who are getting together to, go online and talk about post-finasteride syndrome and spend all their time on forums, if they could all, find a third-party objective laboratory. Some sort of a clinical trial center, have the right, several physicians from across the country who have absolutely no bias, and basically, fund a study like this. It would be incredible, as opposed to a questionnaire, which is the type of stuff that's really happening right now, like Erwig's questionnaire. So if everyone got together who is dealing with post-finasteride syndrome, put some money together to fund a third-party study, that would be brilliant.
Well, I think in theory, I think you're right, but to find an uncommon side effect, such as post-finasteride syndrome, you would probably need in the range of like 5,000 patients in the placebo arm, and also 5,000 patients, taking the actual drug and follow them for 5 years, and that's probably a study that would probably cost in the millions, maybe even like tens of millions of dollars. And I think certainly Merck has no incentive to, they certainly have no incentive to, to fund a study like that. And I think. With study costing that much money, I don't know if that's really realistic or not.
I would say that's probably not realistic, but I'm going to let Joe comment.
Wasn't there a study that did include several thousand participants, and it went on for several years?
Oh, there was. There was a study, but I think the greatest number was a little less than 4,000 participants with about half on the placebo and about half. A little bit less. I think more on the placebo than more on the actual drug, but it's almost half and half.
Right.
And it did go on for several years, and that's about as big.
No.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No. I think the study did go on for like several years, but I think as the study showed, I think none of the studies that have been done to date, adequately assessed safety. And if you think about, just in common sense, I think a lot of unless you really adequately, can quantify the safety, I think a lot of men are not gonna, they're not gonna offer or tell a study coordinator, who is often a woman, that they're having sexual side effects.
So basically, what you're saying is that any study is going to be flawed, and so what do you do? So what do you do except for give people the information that's out there that we currently have? While it may be written off as anecdotal at this point, it still seems to be happening. There may be a real subset of guys like yourself who are suffering with this phenomenon that is unexplainable because there's no way to really show a causal effect. But let people know, and that's what's happening. This is a possibility. This happened to me. And you're still educating the public. Yeah, it would be great if there could be a definitive study done, but you just explained why that's going to be pretty difficult. Not only about the fact that you may need 10,000 participants and the cost and the number of years it's going to take, but also just how the participants are conveying their experience to the physician or to the clinical investigators. So there's a lot of variables. I think the best thing that people can do who are suffering with post-finasteride syndrome, a doctor like yourself, is to let people know, look, this it may be rare, but it happened to me. And I'm a physician, and I truly believe this happened to me. And just by you coming on the program, you're helping a lot of people.
Yep. Yeah, I was wondering if I could, if you have time, maybe I can go through go through like two other points real quick, or?
Well, I'll give you a few minutes. Sure, go ahead.
Sure. I think one thing I've also, I think in the time that I've, had the post-finasteride syndrome and, doing my research, I found, that there's actually no scientific evidence between, that correlates, the DHT level, or the level of hormones and male pattern baldness. I think, in other words, just because you're having, male pattern baldness, does not mean that your DHT level is high. There's probably, in fact, probably the great majority of men with androgenic alopecia, have normal DHT levels.
It's not about your DHT levels necessarily being high. It's about your androgen receptors being susceptible or more sensitive to DHT.
That's exactly right, and I think that's why I kind of realized this. I kind of realized this after I got ill, but it just doesn't make sense, to lower like not only your like DHT level, but the level of like level of like neurosteroids and many other chemicals throughout the entire body. Whereas the only thing you really want to do, you only want to block DHT only in the scalp. That's the ideal medication. There's a medication that could block only DHT, only in the scalp. That's
but even if you
like a holy grail.
Even if you're using a topical DHT suppressant, if you're using a topical 5-alpha reductase, I'm choking here. A 5-alpha reductase inhibitor, there's still going to be some systemic absorption to some degree. So it's never going to be 100% topical unless there was some way for them to target the drug where it's only targeting your hair follicles. And maybe they'll be able to do that with nanoscience or something at some point, but that's not going to happen anytime soon.
Right. Not correct.
Joe?
No, I agree. I mean, the way this is understood to work is that it's not the amount of DHT, like Spencer said. It's the fact that on the cellular level, our follicles are susceptible to binding to DHT. And the way I usually would describe it to patients when I was a consultant is that DHT, no matter how much there is, there's an if you're genetically susceptible, it acts as a strangling agent. So imagine DHT coming up behind your follicle and squeezing the life out of it, right? That's the way I would usually describe it. It's not that there's an overwhelming amount of DHT. It's just that DHT binds to the cells of the follicle or to the growth sites of the follicles and slowly strangles them, and that's why we don't have hair that just suddenly falls out all over the place like telogen and fluvium. It's more of a process where the hair goes through its growth cycles, and every time it comes back, it's a little bit thinner, a little bit thinner, and a little bit thinner until it's not visibly not visible anymore. So. If we could get, like Spencer said, if we could get something that could target that, and that would require some really advanced science, to go in topically to avoid the systemic absorption, then you're a billionaire. But unfortunately, we're not there yet, and it's going to take a long time before we are.
Right.
And actually, Joe is working on it right now in his basement, from what I understand.
Right. Shh! I told you not to say. God bless you.
All right, man. Well, listen, I appreciate the call, and I'm sorry. By the way, how are you feeling? Are you feeling any better?
Yeah, I think overall I'm still having a pretty difficult time. Still have a lot of trouble with insomnia. Still have a lot of trouble with like severe fatigue, and still have a lot of sexual side effects.
Are you working out? Are you eating right? I mean, what?
Oh yeah. No, I eat very well. I try to exercise a couple times a week. Just try to do as much as I can. But I think just my, I think just my testosterone. I think just my testosterone activities. I think just not there anymore.
Have you ever tested your nocturnal erections?
Oh yeah. Well, no. Well, I've never tested it, but I certainly, I certainly noticed it. I certainly noticed like a big change when I became ill. So,
but I mean,
if I could just,
yeah, there are ways you can actually test to see how many nocturnal erections you have. I mean, that's something that you probably have actually access to those devices, or you can just lick a roll of stamps and wrap them around your junk and see if they're broken in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
if I could just make just like one other point, real quick, because I know you have a lot of other callers. I think one of the, looking back, what happened to me, I think probably one of the biggest mistakes that I made is that very early on, I developed the sexual side effects. Probably within about 2 or 3 weeks of starting the medication, I developed the sexual side effects. But I rationalized, continuing to take the medicine. I think since I was having a transplant a couple months later, I thought, if I take the Propecia, that'll help, that'll help protect my hair transplant. I thought that eventually my body would get used to the medication. I thought that if I decreased the dosage of the, dosage of the medications, I thought that I would be okay. So for those reasons, I kept taking the medication, and then, by the time I kind of realized what was going on, it was kind of too late.
Mm-hmm. And I get that, but a lot of people, with that said, there's a lot of people who do seem to experience side effects early on. For most of these guys, and you'll probably attest to this, at least, from what you've read in clinical trials, and also probably what you've read online. A lot of times it's transient, so you can't really blame yourself. I mean, you weren't necessarily rationalizing, but you kind of understand how medicine works and how medication works. There are guys who do lower their dosage, their side effects go away completely, and then they're actually able to up their dosage eventually and live for many, many years on the drug without any adverse side effects. So it's the luck of the draw, man. Yeah. And I'm sorry that you're still dealing with this, but I do think it's important that guys like you call in. I think especially you, because you're a physician and you can speak about it from a very rational standpoint. So I appreciate your point of view.
Absolutely.
All right, Matt?
Okay.
Okay. Well,
thank you.
Thank you so much for the call. Good luck.
Okay. Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I'm going to have to get another drink at this point after that.
I need to start. I don't have anything right now.
The phone number is 888-659-3727. Joe, how is my sound coming to you now? Is it any better?
It seems like when there's a little bit of sound on my end, when you're speaking, it cuts you out for about a second.
Okay, that is a Skype issue.
Yeah.
That is something that normally wouldn't happen since we're working with a separate Skype machine. So all I can think of is there's a bandwidth issue, and that may be why you're a little bit more blurry tonight. I don't know.
Let's when we go to the break, let's disconnect and call me back and see if we can reestablish a better connection.
All right, why don't we take a break now? I'll take care of that. When we come back, we will take your phone calls. Guys who are holding on, phone number 888-659-3727. Let's try to liven up the show a little bit. Call in with some interesting stories. I want to hear a good hairpiece story. Haven't heard one of those in a long time. I remember this one guy called in. He wore a young guy, partial hairpiece. It was the best thing he's ever done, talking about getting laid. It was a fun call. If that guy,
guys that have been getting laid, please call.